Hello everyone, Masculine Entertainment's here.
And Mama Entertainments. Welcome to our podcast.
Today we're going to be discussing one of Disney's recent shows, Tangled the series.
This is a spin-off of the theatrical film of the same name from 2010. As of now, only one season has aired, but there's still plenty to talk about.
I'm surprised how well they did this show. Because usually, in the past, most of the shows, Disney have done spin-offs for movies, and they give either the main character or the side characters shows. Half the time, they really don't work out.
Yeah.
And it could be some good writing, but just sometimes they're just not as great as the movie. They should just stay movies, like with, Lion King, Little Mermaid,
Right.
what else they have? Hercules. Hercules
Yeah,
got a prequel to that. It's like, you don't need that. What's wrong with the movie?
Right. Well, with this one, it started off kind of rocky, but once you get past the first 4 to 5 episodes, it really turns into something great and something that's different from other shows that are on Disney Channel,
Right.
Disney XD.
Well, right. And as you know, Disney XD has mostly animation, so it was a surprise to see that this one's coming on Disney Channel because most of the stuff they have on there are sitcoms.
Right.
And with probably one other cartoon, not counting the Disney Junior block because it's a whole separate audience. But this would be the only cartoon. And not counting Star either, since that'll be moving to there soon.
And there's going to be 2 new shows airing on there as well that we saw on Twitter.
Right.
That we won't get into. So it looks like they're trying to convert it and back into being an animation channel as it was when it first aired.
Right. And I'm pretty sure some of the sitcoms are kind of funny, but I really think they're big.
Their strength.
Their strength is the animation because, people love animation.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Tangled, and this, the actors that starred in the movie, Mandy Moore and Zachary Levi, who both are great actors and have actually had hit television shows, now are voicing these characters on the series, the animated series, as they did in the original movie in 2010. So tell us a little more about Tangled, the movie, and how it has being adapted into a series, and then we can get into the characters and so forth.
Okay, so as you said, that the film first came out in 2010, and it was like Frozen before Frozen was made because they're right, it is so similar. I think the only difference is the climate, and despite that, it still was able to stand on its own a little bit with the characters and doing a rather interesting take on the Rapunzel story. Of course, they had to get some Disney songs in there as usual and try to make the characters a little more in-depth than just, let down your hair even though it might hurt.
Right. And it being public domain, they had the freedom to be very creative and, making new characters.
Right, they can write it however they want it.
Right. And I have to say, they did a really good job. I really liked the movie a lot when we originally saw it.
And the characters have become very memorable and has gotten its own following, which started out slow, but then as years went on, people really started to really enjoy it and doing mashups and fan art and so forth. And it's also the characters, as you said, in it, like with Maximus and Pascal, and they really didn't have that big of a cast.
And Varian.
Well, when it gets to the series, they were able to add way more characters in. But I think for the movie, they just stuck to a simple set.
Right.
And not counting like the villain and such, they just had like a very few characters in there. But when they got to the series, they had a ton of new characters for people to like and to adapt from. They didn't have to go from the story. They could just make up on their own and give it its own world.
I think the movie did a really good job in writing a script that not only adhered to the original concept, but made it into something that was new, which is really tricky to do.
Right.
And I have to say, for the movie itself, they did a great job. I remember going into it with trepidation, wondering, is this going to be good? And I was really, really pleasant surprised and very happy that it was really, really a great movie. And the voice actors did a great job in conveying, innocence in Rapunzel, and in Zachary Levi conveying him being strong, but yet not a douche.
Right.
Because having a past, but not a past that was unforgivable.
There's more to the character of a Disney prince than just being the Disney prince.
Exactly.
Because you don't even have them anymore. I think they're pretty much extinct. Because last one you had was Hans, and he was a jerk. And then you got somehow Kylo Ren, and he's crazy as heck. So the princes are extinct now.
And then they did really great in translating that what made it stand out as a movie to the TV series.
Right.
And I remember when you first said you wanted me to watch the series because you already had began watching it.
Yeah,
and the first episode, and I wasn't really sure I wanted to stay with it after the first episode, but I said, you know what? I took a little break, and then I went back and later and watched episode 2 with you, and episode 3 still was a little shaky, but by the time I got to episode 5, I wanted to stay with the series. I saw what made it stand out, and I saw that it took them, they had like some growing pains in getting it to be interesting and action-filled the rest of the series. So tell us the concept of what the series is itself.
Okay. Well, basically, it takes place 6 months or so after the events of the film. And by the way, it took 7 years to get this series off the ground, even though people have been asking it since the movie's released. Anyway, it takes place 6 months after the events of the film, and it's after her hair has already been cut. And then they kind of introduce you to the king and queen, and you're starting to introduce more characters and people in the kingdom. And then she touches these magic rocks one night while she was out with her lady-in-waiting.
They look more like spikes to me. They call them rocks, but they look like real jagged, pointed black spikes.
Yeah, like are rocks supposed to look like this in this world?
I guess in caves, kind of like stalagmites, but they're upside down and they really look pointy, but okay, rocks.
Right, and she was out with her lady-in-waiting Cassandra, who's another new character to the franchise, and they had spot that's going outside the kingdom, and she touched it, and it magically makes her hair grow back again, so now she's got the iconic long blonde hair back. And then the series kind of focuses on a balance of finding out what caused these rocks to show up, how they connected to her and her hair, and then for the other half that's not plot related, just being shown around the Kingdom of Corona and being introduced these new characters like the pub thugs and of the Snuggly Duckling and other people who reside in the kingdom. And also, I would like to point out, since we're talking about the characters, we're also into a bunch of new ones. As I said, Cassandra, who is the lady in waiting for Rapunzel. We get, let's say, the pub thugs, who get more than just a few characters speaking. Right. We get Eugene's old friend, Lance Strongbow.
Right. And you get to see more about the parents too, because in the original story they were just like a highlight, but now they have personalities.
Right.
And they
didn't even speak. They didn't even have any voice actors. You just kind of could tell what they were feeling within the movie. But now, since they're going to have a full screen time, now they gave them voices, which Clancy Brown was the king. I was surprised on that. So they used to hear him as Lex Luthor now. It's like, is he evil? and Julie Brown as the queen.
And you have Rapunzel's sister that comes in for one episode.
No, the Queen's sister.
Okay.
Yeah, the Queen's sister, Willow, which I was surprised on. And then you have the surprise fan favorite, Varian, the alchemist kid.
Right. And we'll get to him in a minute. Before we discuss the characters. So we've watched the entire first season.
Right, and it's been renewed.
Yay! I'm really glad, but I don't want to give any spoilers, so we're gonna have to tell you this without telling you.
It'll be spoiler free, so don't worry.
Right. What I would like to say are some things that stood out of making this different before we get into the characters. One thing is the neat way that Rapunzel is able to use her hair like a tool and weapons. How she's able to somehow, without using her hands, she takes it and whips her hair, and she beats people up and does things, and that was a nice addition and a change because we didn't see that coming. Right. In the original story, of course, she just lets her hair down and it's just hair. Right. And
the whole joke is she's carrying it around because it's so long, and she kind of hits with her frying pan, which may or may not be an issue for some people.
So in the original, it did nothing, but in this one, it's her superpower. Her hair is a superpower. So that was a nice thing. And as you mentioned about Cassandra, her having a lady in waiting, that was really different because she didn't have that in the original story.
Right. So, like I said, they were adding new characters that weren't part of the original story, but they could just use their imagination, like what would fit into this universe without it seeming like, oh, this belongs in some other Disney show or Disney movie or another fairy tale. Make it work with this universe they have. And they're doing so far a good job of world building, because it looks like we're going to see more of this show's background.
Right. And you mentioned Corona, and I really like this. Another thing that made this a stand out. You see this whole little, I don't know if it's a town.
You could call it a town or kingdom.
Okay. This kingdom, Corona the kingdom, and the surrounding neighboring towns, you would have to say. And they've made it stand out. It's got its own little personality. You get a feel for how the people are and how it is and how the king and queen run the kingdom. And they've made it like watching a television series, a live action series, but it's animated.
Right.
And that's what I think really stands out about it now. When you go in, and no matter what episode you're watching, it's whether it's a comedy episode or a serious episode, it's like you're watching a television series where they have this way of going back and forth between a serious episode, funny episode, something really, really dark happens, and then they bring levity with the next episode.
Right.
And I like that they've taken that approach, because that's the same way that live action series are done. So that's another standout.
That's true, because we have seen a lot of live series do that. So that's the first time we've seen an animation series. Also, another thing in the episodes, as you said, when it's not focusing on the plot, you kind of see more of the kingdom and trying to give the characters personality rather than just kind of shoving in your face, like, here, accept this. And you're getting to see, like, all the people who work that have jobs and their friends. They make new friends every other episode. And sometimes they have some really creative ones. Like, they have ones where they have their own version of like a battle game. They have festivals and celebrations. Every once in a while, someone new comes to town. They have to stop a thief. So there's always something going on to keep you interested, even if it's not focusing on the secret of those rock spike things.
Right. Another thing that's different for this series that I think they borrowed from Star vs. the Forces of Evil. Rapunzel is a rebel princess.
Right.
You can tell that she's got her own mind. She thinks for herself. Like I said, her hair is her superpower. And she walks around without shoes everywhere that she goes. No matter what anyone says, she refuses to put these shoes on. And then her lady-in-waiting, Cassandra, has a similar attitude, but she's more rough around the edges than Rapunzel, who probably isn't, because how she was away in the tower. Right. And so she has more of an innocence to her, and she's growing and developing. Right. But I do like that approach that they did to the character.
Right. And you can see it was slightly different from the movie. You just thought she was excited about everything because you didn't know what anything was. Like I said, being locked up for 18 years. Right. And then even my friend Sylvian said, what if they saw that video where you use Star's Rapunzel, because it seems like she's more like her in this series. Like, yeah, it would be funny if Disney saw one of my works and decided, let's make her like Star. It worked once.
Because, yeah, she is.
And I guess Flynn would be like a more common version of Marco.
No.
If you're going to go.
No, Flynn is nothing like Marco. Sorry. Flynn is Flynn.
Well, at least he's his own character.
Yes,
so.
He is.
So at least it's not seem like, oh, it's like this character. No, at least he stands out on his own.
He
so
does,
that's
definitely,
good.
Definitely.
And then, as we said, we get another character. Like, you still have Maximus, who's the horse, who they kind of treat like he's human, because the animals in this show, like Maximus and Pascal, they are treated like humans. They can read, they can sword fight, they can compete in games, they can have conversations, just an animal. But if they do everything but talk, I am just so flabbergasted at how well these animals are just human-like, and just everyone's okay with this. And a horse being a royal guard, they can walk in the castle as much as they want. They're like humans.
That's another standout. And I think that they borrowed that trope from The Emperor's New Groove. Remember the chipmunks and how he would talk to them in chipmunks, and they had and they had their own little community, and they talked, and all the animals in there, except for Cusco, of course, because he was really human, they acted like humans. So I think that was a great thing that they borrowed from the Emperor's New Groove because they hadn't used it again. So it wasn't overused, and it's a great thing to point out. Yes, I do love that about the series.
Yeah, and
too.
it was pretty and
Pascal
funny.
is just so adorable.
And he's
a
got
lizard. He's a little lizard, but he's so adorable.
He was so well liked. He got his own episode and a little backstory on how he met Rapunzel.
Right.
And it's probably one of the best episodes of the season.
I agree.
And like I said, all these characters, like I said, are kind of his own little communities, has this own, just pretty much his own community and how everyone kind of interacts with one another, and they're all interwoven in here. Now, the one character, of course, became a surprise fan favorite, which I believe the writers were going for Cassandra to be the favorite because of her personality and how you said she stands up for herself, she's kind of rough, she can fight.
Yeah, she seems like she's a feminist in the series. That's what she seems like.
Yeah,
she's
a little
strong.
Right.
While still remaining strong.
And I think they were expecting her to be the favorite because she got quite a few episodes whether she was the focus or partially the focus with the other two characters. But I think they banked on the wrong one because the instant fan favorite was Varian, who only has 4 to 5 episodes out of 26. He's barely in a quarter of a season. And he just got his own little fandom.
Yeah. So let's quickly talk about the other characters and then get to Varian. Okay. So Rapunzel, as we said, she is learning, she's growing. She still has, a naive side about her because she was locked in the tower for so long. Flynn, she wants to say he's not misunderstood, but he's a bad boy. He's reformed. He's a
misunderstood good guy. They literally took the same thing.
And he's reformed, so he was known by Flynn.
Flynn Rider.
And then his name
is Eugene Fitzbirth.
Right.
Like, no wonder you changed it.
And he's Rapunzel's boyfriend, and he's in the kingdom living with them, and he helps to give her some balance. He will guide her when she needs guidance, and the relationship you can see is growing as well as she personally is growing.
Right.
Then, as we talked about, there's Cassandra, the lady in waiting.
Right.
And she's, like I said, she seems like a feminist character to me, but she knows how to be
assertive, I guess you could say.
She's assertive, but she knows how to serve her princess and not overstep her, her
and
or be disrespectful.
And the thing she wants to be a royal guard. Actually, her father is the captain of the guard. She has been trained to be a guard, which explains why she's so good at sword fighting and combat skills. Right. But they keep saying, "No, you can't do it yet because it's a daughter." So he doesn't really want her to do it yet. But she just keeps training almost every episode as she keeps her lay-in-waiting duties aside as well.
And you mentioned the King and Queen, as you said, Clancy Brown, which is great, and the Queen. And for the King, for me, even through the end of the first season, to me, he doesn't seem like a great ruler. He's lost touch with the subjects that surround the kingdom, with the people that live in the other villages. He's lost touch, and he doesn't empathize or sympathize. I think at the end of the final episode we saw, he's beginning to realize what a mistake he's made. Right. So maybe in season 2, he'll learn to be a better ruler. Right. But for this series,
no. Because you can see there's this thing in here where there was a place called Old Corona, and then where they are now is New Corona. Right. So because of all the rocks there, most of the people kind of moved out, but some stayed in. So it looks like he stopped dealing with the people who still live there, and only dealt with the ones that were still around the new version of Corona and the kingdom, which is why the ones in the other place are just kind of just farmers or self-run businesses.
Right. And the mom, she seems to be a little more in touch, although she also seems to be standoffish in terms of not mingling again with the villages around her. But when she comes into contact with them, she seems to be more empathetic when she deals with them than the king. And we forgot to mention that Eugene is older than Rapunzel, which is why she's learning more from him. And Cassandra, I don't know, she seems older than Rapunzel.
Yeah, that's what people were saying. I couldn't figure out because some people kind of ship her with Varian, but it's clear that I think she's possibly I think someone said 23. I'm going to guess. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry.
Yeah, she seems older.
But she seems like she may be in her 20s.
Right. Okay, and then we have, as you mentioned, the animals. And you mentioned Pascal and Maximus. And let's see.
Yeah, there weren't that many other animals introduced into the show.
Right.
They kind of stuck with those two because clearly every other animal in there is something wrong. So
let's mention quickly Eugene's friend.
Lance Strongbow,
who now has become a regular on the series as
right.
well.
And they're both kind of the detectives because they think like thieves, so they kind of help the kingdom catch thieves that constantly try to steal their stuff, which they need because every day those thieves are there.
Right. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, they met at an orphanage.
Yeah.
So they're long, pretty much you can say lifelong friends.
Mm-hmm.
And he comes with the thief mindset, and Eugene helps him to realize, you can stay here, you can take root here, you can grow here. There are people who want to be your friends, and you don't have to, keep living this lifestyle. And he chose to stay.
Right.
And it's a nice story. That one episode is one of the best episodes for season 1.
Yeah, and I wasn't really expecting that because usually when this trope where sometimes it's an old friend of the main characters and it turns out they weren't as nice as they thought and they're bad guys and they got to take them down because they're no longer friends. There's always something wrong with the long friends. Yeah,
because they made us think that's how it was going to go, but then it was the whole 360.
Right.
180
so
or
that
360.
Was whatever it's called.
Right.
But yeah, at least they flipped the trope on its head.
And it was great.
Right.
Okay, so now let's get to Varian. Who is also one of the characters.
Right.
And he lives in one of the villages outside of Corona.
Right. And every now and then he shows up within the series, but he doesn't show up much because, like I said, it's kind of further away. He's voiced by well-known singer Jeremy Jordan, you might have seen on some other shows and maybe a movie or two.
Supergirl as Wynn. How can you forget to tell him?
I knew that. That's why I said superhero shows and movies. Yeah. And of course he's gonna sing in here because Disney loves songs, and they got quite a few songs here. Some of them pretty good, some of them I could live without. So, the character has had only a few appearances in the show, but like I said, he's gotten a big following.
And the 5 episodes, as you mentioned, the 5 episodes he appears in are actually 5 of the better episodes.
Right.
So
they should have actually had him in there a little more than what they planned.
Right.
Because his first appearance was in the very second episode of the series when they thought he was a wizard, and I know he's an alchemist, and which is just science. I guess the word science has been invented yet.
4 out of 5 of those episodes were better. Episode 2 was not good, but Varian's appearance and his character were very interesting. So from the moment he came on the scene in episode 2, I liked Varian. I didn't like the episode, but I liked Varian.
Right, which
so
is
4 out of 5 of his episodes were the better episodes.
Right, which is understandable because it just started. You had to get used to this and know the status quo of the show before it finally got the ball rolling.
Well, I think more than that, as I said, the writing just got better for the episodes. They became more interesting. They became more full of action. There was more plot line, and as the episodes went on, they began to reveal things that we didn't know about different characters of the kingdom. It was just better writing.
Right.
So you have to hang in there. It's not so much as getting used to it. It's more of the writing got better, and the plots got better, and the arc began to progress, and the different characters came in, and you really just start liking what was going on.
Right.
For me.
And they had some pretty interesting episodes, even if they didn't have Varian in them like they had for the darker episodes. They started to get more of those, just like every other Disney show.
Right.
They started to get more darker tone near the end of the first season, like they had one with a ghost haunting the pup place. That
was a really great episode.
Yeah, and then it was the ghost of the original owner was haunting them and just wanted the song in order to let them, so she wouldn't haunt them anymore.
And she go rest in peace.
Right. And they would have one where it was a rival horse for Maximus, which is reserved for a human. But like I said, there are humans in here, so they're.
And that reminded me of Shaolin Showdown, where Dojo's old friend came back and he was battling with him for Master Fong's attention.
Right.
So.
And there was also possibly the darkest one, besides it gets to near the end of the season, was when they had this. I don't know what she was. They had to make them draw these old trees, and it was actually putting them under a spell or something to bring back some dark spirit. It's like, oh great, now we're going into Star territory, aren't we? Where did this come from?
But thankfully, they're all not dark like that. There's some really fun episodes, and that you really enjoy. And the dark ones have their place because they progress the story, and you're finding out more and more about the rocks. Mm-hmm. I did want to get back to that. We didn't touch on that enough about the rocks themselves. You did mention that the people moved from old Corona to new Corona.
Right.
But also I wanted to mention Varian, as you said, is an alchemist, and he keeps doing experiments and trying to find out what is the secret, or what is the secret underlying these different rocks.
Why are they popping up?
Right. And during the time he's doing this, they began to pop up more and more, and they're taking over more and more of new Corona. And then they were the old Corona, as you said. And now that new Corona is being overtaken, now the king and queen are getting worried about it. But when it was outside of their kingdom with the regular villagers, they just didn't care. Mm-hmm. And I think that was an interesting twist for Disney to have, because usually in their stories they have the royal family and they try to make them be sympathetic or empathetic. But these two characters really weren't.
Yeah, because they thought it's like, oh, it's not an issue, it's not over here, so what's the problem?
Right, but now it's becoming a problem for them. And Varian is trying to figure out how to stop them and get rid of them. Mm-hmm. And he figures out that it has a connection to Rapunzel. Mm-hmm. And then, unfortunately, he's affected personally by these rocks in his own family. And it just makes him step up his game and work harder and harder trying to figure out how to stop what is happening.
Right. And people believe there's actually an ongoing theory on the community now, especially on Tumblr, where it's called the Moon Variant Theory. As you know, in the movie, Rapunzel's hair gets the power from a sundrop flower. Mm-hmm. So people think maybe there's an opposite called a moondrop flower, and maybe this was used on Varian, explains this blue streak in his hair that seems to just be the only thing in his hair. Mm-hmm. And they believe maybe he has moon powers, and it's supposed to be like the opposite of Rapunzel, and that could be part of the story.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think what's kind of interesting also is that we noticed that it was pretty clear that Varian starts off as a good guy. He seems to be a good guy. He seems to be nice and pleasant, has a crush on Cassandra and so forth. And he starts growing as a character differently because of things that happen within the show. Some betrayals, some broken promises, and things of that nature. So it's interesting how it affects him. But I really like Varian. Yeah. And I really hope he stays a good guy.
Right, because I think the writers know now that they've gotten feedback from fans watching the show, they'll probably realize this was probably a mistake, because I know at the time writing this is not what they expected, but people are saying, please don't let him stay a villain. I can't see him as a villain. Make him reform or something, because most people do not want to see him as a villain now. They just want to see him, get back on his feet. They want to see him get better. They don't want to see him as a villain. Like, please don't make him a villain. He's the only likable one on here.
Oh my God. There are other likable characters, but you really
of course,
like
Varian. He just became the instant favorite. I think he became so lovable in his first couple appearances before the change. It's just like, like you said, when he has crush on her Sandra, he was doing all this stuff for her, and I couldn't quit laughing. He's like, I just got a few of these chores. I need to pick up that. Oh, and I need to clean up this room. Oh, and that room. Oh, and that room too. And that room too. Oh, and that room too. Well, okay.
Oh, theoretically, but I am presenting second to last, so I figured that'll give me a few extra minutes to get ready. Plus, I just have that one room left. Oh, in that room. Oh, that one too. Also that one.
Look, Varian, I know you really like Cass, but
Don't worry. Cass agreed to be my assistant during my presentation, so, I got everything under control. On to the next...
Oh, Varian, that is not a room, that's
Oh, that's... Oh, no!
Now, as you mentioned, he's being shipped with Cassandra. And if you've never watched this show and kind of want to get an idea for the characters and seeing some mashups, we have a followable Villains Rule. And he does a lot of mashups with Cassandra and Varian that are really good. Really, really good ideas and the music. So go to Villains Rule and take a look. And then Rascal's got a few that she's done as well with some of the Tangled characters.
Right, and
you really won't get the full effect until you watch the show.
And one of my friends, Lavender Rose, has done a whole set where she's mixed the show with a movie called Strange Magic, and kind of you're doing every song with that show. So you might want to check that one out.
I have to check it out too. Now you've told me.
Yeah, it's like a whole set. So there's a ton of songs in that movie I didn't even know about. I was like, good grief, this is a musical.
Okay, Lavender Rose, I will be watching your videos. Now, a quick note actually about the two main characters, as we said, the voice actors. Mandy Moore, you've known her for a lot of other TV series and movies she used to do. Her big role now, she's in NBC's This Is Us, and she plays the mom, and this Married to Jack, who played by Milo Ventimiglia. And we want to mention Zachary Levi because his big claim to fame on TV was again on NBC in Chuck, where he played a secret agent who no longer comes on. But now he's playing Shazam in the new DC movie Shazam, and it's going to be real interesting to see him play this role because it's different from anything he's ever done.
Right.
And they've got him buffed up and playing a superhero. So I just wanted to mention those two because I like both of them as actors, and they've just done really great at voicing these animated characters and making them their own and making them likable and stand out. So just a shout out to Mandy Moore and Zachary Levi. Yeah. And to who does Varian's
Jeremy Jordan.
Jeremy Jordan, yes, we love you on Supergirl, and we love you equally here on Tangled, the series.
Yeah. So if you want, give it a try. They have, if you have on-demand video service, they have all of the episodes of the season available, or you can watch them right here on YouTube, or you can go to the Disney Channel website and check out the full episodes there as well.
And you should hang in until after episode 5. It's worth the wait. It's worth watching the other 5 episodes to get to the good part. It really is. So, our next podcast will be biblical animated movies. We've got 3 favorites we want to share with you and an honorable mention. Right.
And not sure if you've heard of some of these, because some of these, as you know, are not well known, that we will get into when the podcast comes. And you might want to be able to check them out after hearing them, because we were surprised by most of them as well.
And they're really, really good. So you'll find out. Come give us a listen.
All right. That wraps things up for us. No pun intended this time. I'm Rascal Entertainment.
And I'm Mama Entertainment.
Have a toontastic day.
Peace.
And reporters sitting, flashing lights, trying to walk around, man, who the hell are you? What you want to do? Well, man, it's on you. Man, it's on you. Met her in my dreams, she was my queen. A castle in the mountaintops, rivers and streams. Plucking sunlight from the sky in my pocket.